So much to dive into today. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Urshry. Glad to have y'all hanging out here on this Wednesday afternoon. We are, of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source, 2 different locations in Savannah to take care of all of your uniform needs. Yeah, I said it. PJ Zuko.
We're back.
Back in studio with us after a trip up north above the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh, yeah.
To good old Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
How was the trip, man?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was absolutely beautiful. Mid 80s all week, no humidity, so you
wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah, spend some time outside and enjoy it. But I know, man, whole focus of the trip. I know everyone wants to hear a 10-minute spiel about it. No,
obviously,
whole focus of the trip was to be able to see my nephews, be able to meet my godson for the first time on his first birthday. So. Obviously, COVID, messed up the last year for being able to see him and whatnot. But it was great to be able to finally meet my little nephew and spend the week with them. And it was just fantastic doing everything from playing outside soccer, going to amusement park, mini golf and stuff like that. It was a fantastic time.
Now, you drove up there?
Yeah, we're a full-on driving family, man. We're all about the road trips.
I respect that, but you said you guys have a weird thing where you talk the entire time and don't put headphones in and pass out.
No. Okay, I can see the confusion there, though. A few weeks ago, I went on a trip to North Georgia.
Cam, if you didn't know this, PJ goes on a lot of vacations. Like pre-COVID, Kevin would go on at least 4 cruises a year, and PJ goes on like a guy's trip, which is usually a once a year thing, 6 times a year.
yeah, exactly. It's annually about 4 or 5 times a year.
And meanwhile, if I take half a Friday off, I'm like, oh, that was a vacation.
That was wild. Now I try and especially it feels like that, especially in July and the early part of August. I mean, once we hit football season, man, it's batten down the hatches. We're staying here. So, I try and do as much as I can kind of in this season, right before football. But no. A few weeks ago on that trip, though, when we went up to North Georgia, the mountains, I was with some buddies, and I was very ill-prepared for how much they were going to talk. It was 6.5 hours up and back of talking the whole time, and I had no idea that was going to happen. When I'm not on a show, I'm normally kind of quiet and calm unless I'm in a conversation with someone, but normally I just put my head down and get my work done. But man, that was wild. So
you have your own verb here called getting PJ'd, where if you're talking to somebody about something and then somebody else just comes in and ignores you and starts talking to the person you were talking to, that's getting PJ'd.
Right, the conversation shifts. It doesn't matter what we're talking
You just
about.
get run over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so bad.
So the hilarious thing is everyone's like, well, why don't you no, I try. I talk over people, doesn't work. I don't know what it is. But no, it's that was hilarious. That sure happened plenty of times on that trip. No, but the 14-hour trek and back to Pennsylvania, there was some talking, but no, there's plenty of music mixed in there too. Has to be if you're gonna go that way. And in the past we've stopped short and stopped in North Carolina, something like that. This time, nope. It was both times. It was full day of driving. So it is what it is. Like I said, it's just kind of how my family was brought up. So we're used to it. I know a lot of other people aren't, but it was fun.
I'm just happy you said batten down the hatches because I love phrases like that where you're like, if I ask you guys to tell me where batten down the hatches came from, could you tell me?
No.
Those are ship terms, right? You batten down the hatches when you go.
Yeah, but what's a batten?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
When have you ever used the term in any other phrase? Have you ever said the word batten?
No, absolutely not. I think the closest badminton, but that's not even close.
Because what I'm garnering from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, if you're gonna go to a dictionary, Merriam-Webster, that's the one. And also another note: did you know Merriam-Webster is not a woman named Merriam-Webster? It's 2 different people whose last name was Marion and the other one was Webster.
And they combined.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just blowing minds out here, but no, I was just reading. Batten apparently it's just a piece of lumber that was mostly used for reinforcement. So there you go.
You learn something.
You lock the hatch and then you batten it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I knew what the action was. I didn't know what the baton was itself. So no, I love that.
Maybe we can batten up the defense for the Falcons this year.
Oh, you guys would be all right.
That would be
You guys
nice.
would be just fine.
We
yeah.
could use at least 11 battens.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we can sign some battens in free agency there. No, we did. It was a good night last night for the Braves, PJ. I almost told you to stay in Pennsylvania because since you've left, the Braves all of a sudden
Pretty
have become
good.
one of the hotter teams in baseball.
That's messed
Pretty
up.
good, man. I don't know what it is.
Like you go ahead and stay up there, PJ. But
I saw that and I was keeping track of the Braves. I almost texted you so many times, but I was like, I'm not going to do it. It's going to mess up the streak.
it's not really a streak. We did
was a
have
li-
it.
there was a
We did
mini
have it.
streak.
We had a streak, 18 games in a row where it was win loss win loss win loss. But we got rid of that streak. Now we're just on some win stuff. But now the Braves take down the Reds last night 3-2. Adam Duvall, a 2-run homer in the fourth, and then you win another game off of the just amazing and ever present apparently for Braves bases loaded walk.
Woo.
Just anything more exciting in sports.
Of course not.
It's like free throws, man. It
Yeah.
kills me. No, Stephen
Grand
Vogt.
Slam, get out of here.
Yeah,
Give me
in
the walk.
Yeah, in the sixth inning, he draws a bases loaded walk. Braves end up winning 3-2. Not that Will Smith didn't try again to give it away. It took the old 3-2-3 double play from Freddie Freeman to hold on to that lead there in the top of the ninth. But man, all of a sudden these Braves are one game back, and they're not one game back of the Mets anymore because the Mets have just fallen off a cliff. One game back of the Phillies, who are still playing. The Dodgers got beat 5-0 last night, and I think you'll be a half game more ahead of the Mets more likely than not here in a little while because they're wrapping up the remainder of the game from yesterday, and they were down 3-1 to Washington, and so they're going to finish up that game and then play again. So when they finish up that first game, if that score holds, you'll be another half game ahead of the Mets in second place in the East. And again, just one game back of the Philadelphia Phillies. So potentially, if you win tonight and the Phillies lose to the Dodgers, you're tied for first place in the NL East.
Yeah.
Which, coming out of the All-Star break and the moves that the Braves made, you didn't know if they were going to work out or not. And all of a sudden, you were just mired in mediocrity for 18 straight games. I don't think a lot of folks thought we were going to be here. I know a lot of folks were hopeful, but this quickly, one game back with a chance tonight to be in first place is pretty wild.
Yeah. No, that is sorry. I'm talking a lot today. I don't know.
He's got a lot to get off his chest, Cam.
I guess.
Nah, I mean,
guess
it's good. It's good. You're back. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
I just it's remarkable. Like
It's
you said,
PJ's Philadelphia Phillies, though, you know.
yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone talks about how much.
Where did you just go? Where
right
did you
about
just
that.
get back from vacation?
I did not go to Philly. I'll tell you
But
that
you were
much.
in the state.
I was in the Philly half of the state, I guess. So
How about that?
whatever. But no, Braves fan through and through. Anyway,
Yeah, as soon as PJ's Pittsburgh Pirates
yeah,
fall
exactly.
off,
Yeah,
it's PJ's Philadelphia Phillies. You guys really like going P and P.
sure. Yeah, we're all about
Pittsburgh Pirates,
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Philadelphia Phillies,
My name's PJ, Pennsylvania.
PJ Zuko.
You all mix it up in there.
Mhm.
Great letter.
Apparently.
Anyway,
Apparently.
yeah, no, love what we've been seeing from the Braves all in all, and I love the fact that we're talking about being one game back of the division lead and not one game back of 500 anymore, right?
It's true.
Just mired in that same mediocrity and in that same just hole, right? With one hand out, the rest of your body's still in there for so long. So
Zombie images. All right.
yeah, I started it and had to finish it anyway.
I feel you.
But no, it's been remarkable to see how the trades have worked out as well. Like you said, when the moves were made, was very hopeful about them, but because you didn't have to give up so much either. Like you didn't have to give up anyone that was extremely hot at the time or anyone that you were really building around to be a corner piece of your roster, for
You got
years.
Soler for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. For years upon years. So what you gave up and what you brought in, and of course, everyone was hoping for the spark, and we finally gotten that. It's been remarkable to see how it's going, but obviously got to keep it up. Just because you're a few games over 500 doesn't mean that line is going anywhere. But got to be able to keep the foot keep the foot on the gas pedal, obviously, and keep hoping for the Phillies to keep losing to the Dodgers there, and Dodgers just kind of keep up what they've been able to do lately.
Again, I think the Braves got to take advantage of these next 8, or I'd say 11 games, because you have 2 more coming up with the Reds, Nationals, and then Marlins and Orioles coming up here, Cam. But we kind of touched on it there. Adam Duvall, Soler comes in. You add Jock Peterson before all of that. Which one of those guys do you feel like has been the biggest addition to the Braves? Because, I mean, 3 outfielders that weren't on your team 35 games ago are now your starting lineup every night.
I'll say Adam Duvall. He came through clutch last night in the 4th inning. I know they were down 2-0 early, and I'm thinking, okay, the Braves finna, go ahead and lose this one. The Reds are a good team. I want to say going into last night, they're 10 games over 500, so they're like 61,
the Reds,
51. Yeah, they're a really solid team, and all 3 have been good additions, but you got to choose one. So I'll go Adam Duvall. He has a cooler name too, so go Adam Duvall.
Then Jock Peterson.
Nah, I go Adam Duvall. I like it's just a cool name to me.
All right.
But bold prediction, I think the Braves will be first in the division by the end of this week. I just don't see the Phillies even beating the Dodgers this week. That's just my bold prediction. I might be right. Even if the Braves lose tonight, I'm still confident in that prediction. But I'm liking how they're looking. They're 3 games over 500, and I think in a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, we might be talking about 10 games maybe. So. Yeah,
and right now, your guy Adam Duvall hitting 229 with the Braves, but he has had some pop and some really timely home runs. But, I mean, Jorge Soler, 344 batting average right now with the Atlanta Braves. And then Jock Peterson, in extended playing time with the Braves, has a 288 batting average. So just a huge improvement over what you've seen. And now all of a sudden, what I think has been the kind of the black hole of this lineup, which has been the catcher spot, it's been bad. Like, Steven, I appreciate what you did last night, getting that walk. I think this is 2nd bases loaded walk RBI of the season, because last week when the Braves scored, 4 runs off of bases loaded walks, he was one of them. But you get your Silver Slugger and Travis d'Arnaud back probably tonight. I don't know if we've announced a lineup yet, probably coming out soon if it hasn't been, but he will be on the active roster tonight. They designated Kevin Smith for assignment, which, listen, I'm sure Kevin Smith's a good guy, but thank God, because if you want to talk about a guaranteed out every single time that came up, the Braves catchers have been bad. We talked about this earlier in the week. The batting average for every Braves catcher combined, not named Travis d'Arnaud, who got hurt really early in the season, was 133.
That's
Can't
bad.
happen.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
bad.
it's you're playing with 8 guys in the lineup.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, I think the pitchers may have a better batting average than you in the lineup. I mean, Max Fried's raking right now.
Yeah, he is.
So it's like it's a huge sigh of relief when I heard that Travis d'Arnaud was going to be back sooner than we thought, because early projections were, when he hurt his hand, was he was going to be out until the beginning of the playoffs. And so the fact that he's able to come back a little bit quicker, I think is huge news. And so all of a sudden, the lineup you had going into the All-Star break is completely different now. You're not playing 2 or 3 quad A guys in the outfield. You're not having to just scrounge around for a catcher anymore. You have your guy back. And if I have to imagine Stephen Vogt stays on as your second catcher, probably see him play every 4 to 5 games. But you have your guy back now at catcher. Freddie Freeman's playing at an MVP level. Dansby Swanson's caught fire all of a sudden. The one thing I'm still kind of hesitant on is Ozzie Albies in the leadoff role. He hasn't played great since he moved to that leadoff spot. I mean, 0 for 4 last night. And that I like Jock Peterson up there. I understand the thought process with Albies. He's probably your 3rd best hitter behind Acuna and Freeman. And obviously Acuna's hurt, but just in general in your franchise, probably your 3rd best hitter. Leadoff's just such a different mindset, and it's such a different role. I really like Jock Peterson up there. And if you want to put Albies at 2, that's fine. I liked Albies at 4. And then Austin Riley hitting 5th. I really like that 1 through 5 there. But I think you let it go for another week or so. If he continues to struggle, you move him down. I think the one thing I'll say for this, Brian Snitker has found a lineup that he likes, and he's stuck to it. At least we're not pulling Jock Peterson out for lefties anymore, and then having whoever steps in go 1 for 4 or 0 for 4. So there is that. But if there's one thing I can critique right now, it would be I'd probably move Ozzie Albies out of that leadoff spot. We got more to come here, though, on Second Down. We'll dive into some – I love this, the anonymous quotes from coaches about other teams. It's one of my favorite things we get every year. Athlon Sports just put out their SEC version, anonymous quotes by coaches about other teams. We'll dive into that. Also, some NFL talk coming up here in a little while as well. Make sure you stick around for 3 and Out. Georgia Southern Athletic Director Jared Binko will be joining the show at 3:20. Get you updated on everything going on in Statesboro as we get ready for a full Paulson Stadium coming up this fall. That's coming up at 3:20. We'll come back with some more right here on Second Down. Cam coming back with the boss.
Listen, he was born to run, man.
Cam, you were born to run.
That's it.
What's your favorite Bruce Springsteen song, Cam?
I just clicked something, guys.
That hurts me, man. You're not a fan of the boss?
That's my first time hearing that.
Listen, I'll say so. Now he's hooked. We got him.
There you go.
We got him.
I think my favorite Bruce Springsteen song might be Springsteen. By
All
Eric
right.
Church.
All right. Now you guys are being sacrilegious.
I'm just kidding.
You're
I'm just
being
kidding.
now
Calm
we're
down.
being sacrilegious.
down.
I'm going to take us to a commercial break.
I like Springsteen songs, man. Just chill.
No, I'm going to take us to commercial break just so we can come back and listen to another Springsteen song. No, I mentioned it going into the last break. One of my favorite times of the year is where you get the anonymous quotes from coaches about other coaches or teams inside the SEC. Athlon Sports has put that out. They went out, interviewed a bunch of anonymous coaches. So you don't know if this is like the grad assistant or this could be the head coach.
Yeah.
But do love an anonymous quote. There is one in here where you're like, this man must be 1,000 years old who says this. But I think it provides an interesting perspective about people who are competing against each other and how good or bad they think someone else is. And I wanted to start with Florida because I think there's a couple interesting quotes in here. And the first one I want to talk about is the speed is insane. You fear it. Their receiver speed is unbelievable. It changes how you scheme their entire offense. Now, they lost Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney last year from that wide receiver core, or I'll say pass catcher core if you want to call it that. But they still have a ton of dudes coming back. And with Emory Jones, who has a cannon for an arm and can do a ton of stuff with his legs, I think this is going to be a better Florida offense than a lot of people in the media think that is going to be. I mean, I give Dan Mullen the benefit of the doubt. I don't know about you guys, but with what he's been able to do with quarterbacks throughout his career, what he did with Tim Tebow, with what he was able to do with Dak Prescott and then Nick Fitzgerald, and then what he just did with Kyle Trask, does anybody right now in college football have a better resume of working with quarterbacks than Dan Mullen?
Yes.
Who?
Lincoln Riley.
Maybe. Yeah. That's up there. that hurts.
That's
just like cutting. Forgot Cam's a Sooner fan.
Nah, Spencer Rattler guy. But yeah, Lincoln Riley. That's probably
I mean, Baker
the only
Mayfield
person.
and Kyler Murray.
I think that's part of the. I always come in with this, but like that's part of the argument, right? Are you talking about over their tenure? Are you talking about over the last 3 or 4 years? You know what I mean?
But I mean, I will say this because, like, to I guess counter you a little bit, Cam. I mean, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield more so. Baker was kind of a reclamation project, right? Like we knew he was pretty good. We didn't know how good he was. And I'll give you credit. Lincoln Riley did an amazing job. Kyler Murray, we knew he was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he was like Mr. Football in the state of Texas, won a state championship there. He was he's a 5-star when he went to Texas A&M. You kind of knew what it was, but I mean, nobody ever really thought that about Dak Prescott.
True.
I'll give you that.
And like he was the offensive coordinator for Tim Tebow, who I would argue is the greatest college quarterback of all time. And then honestly, what he did with Nick Fitzgerald was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Fitzgerald is the all-time leading rusher by a quarterback in SEC history.
You look at the guys that are on that list. It's remarkable.
So yeah, I think Lincoln Riley and him are next to each other. I mean, if you want to throw Heisman's up there, Tim Tebow won a Heisman too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll say that. But I mean, I guess the point is inside the SEC, if I was going to give any coach a benefit of the doubt and say he's going to do an amazing job with his offense and his quarterback, it would probably be Dan Mullen.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the SEC for sure. I think I have to talk myself down a little bit when I start thinking about Florida because I automatically think of the past like 10 years with what we've seen from Florida and like they're probably going to struggle on offense, probably going to be really good on defense, but especially like what are we going to see from the quarterback play?
Yeah.
But now that you have Dan Mullen in there and a weapon like Emory Jones with you just talked about it with what we've seen Dan Mullen do with quarterbacks' legs and their athletic ability. And obviously throwing over the top as well, and speed. I mean, that's the biggest part of it right there. The speed being utilized on the outside, not only from Emory Jones, but from the guys around him. To hear another coach saying something like that, it makes me a little bit more confident in Florida than I already am, and I think they're already pretty underrated going into 2021. But yeah, I mean that's a really interesting comment for sure.
And again, I think Jacob Copeland could be in for a big year there at Florida. They have a ton of dudes in that wide receiver core that I think you're going to know their names 3-4 weeks into the season. They're playing behind Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney last year, which most wide receivers would, because those are 2 first-round picks. So
Yeah.
I think this Florida offense is going to be good. My concern is these next few quotes, and they're kind of reaffirming some of my thoughts. I don't think it's a secret on the station. Not a huge fan of the way Todd Grantham calls defense. It's undisciplined, and yeah, you'll get a sack, but then the very next play, you're giving up a first down on 2nd and 15. There's just so many blown coverages inside of it. It's so tough to watch. And so a few of these quotes right here kind of, I think, lead credence to that, which it says, believe it or not, they weren't as exotic on 3rd down as they have been in previous seasons. My guess is that the personnel couldn't handle it all. It was surprising. They would struggle against lesser teams and then go out and play like a world beater. So inconsistency there. The next one says, it's no secret in the industry that Dan is hard to work for and Grantham is stubborn. So watching that relationship maintained sure has been weird. So, I mean, just that kind of painting a picture of what we've seen over the past few years, a little behind the scenes picture. The next 2, I think, really speak to what we kind of see on Saturdays from the defense. It says the secondary is always good. They seem to have a factory going down there, which I don't think will stop this year with Kyer Elam, who's an All-American.
Yeah.
Where they lacked was the front. It seemed like they didn't like to get nasty against the run. You could run at their inside guys and have some success. You should not be able to run against a Florida defense that easily. And I'm kind of here with that. When you looked at Florida, I mean, even in the Georgia game last year, first play of the game, 75-yard touchdown run.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like, I mean, how many touchdowns did Najee Harris have against that Florida team? It was
100.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. They had absolutely nothing for him. And yeah, you could. I mean, Texas A&M was able to gut that Florida defense pretty consistently. And I think that last statement is pretty significant. You should not be able to run against a Florida defense that easily. I think back to Brandon Spikes, just absolutely massacring people on the inside of that Florida defense. So I'm not going to put it all in defensive tackles. I think a lot of that has to do with attitudes from the linebackers. Now, if you sit there and think about the coverage you're trying to run and you're getting lost, it makes it a whole lot harder to react. But you should not be able to run against a Florida defense that easily. And then the next quote from another coach, this is a consistent, talented offense that's transitioning and needs a more effective scoring defense. If they can't improve on run defense and points allowed, you'll see a noticeable regression. So that coach basically saying, unless that defense steps up from what it was last year, which I think it can. Ventrell Miller's really good. Brenton Cox is really good. Kyer Elam, like I said, All-American.
Yeah.
They have the dudes to do it. Do they have the plan to do it is yet to be seen. But if that defense, I think this is fair with a new quarterback coming in and new stars all over the place. If that defense isn't ready early, I mean, your first SEC game is Alabama. If that defense isn't ready early, we could see a noticeable regression from this Florida team.
Yeah, absolutely. If like you said, if they're not ready and if things don't mesh automatically on offense, I mean, I don't know if it would be as drastic, but like we could see the type of regression we saw from LSU coming off their national championship. I feel like with the type of, just with what they lost. Now, like you said, I mean, they got some playmakers on offense, but in the SEC, especially just as a whole, you've got to be able to slow down the running game, and that's the first point of attack. You've got to be able to slow it down. You got to be able to get off the field on 2nd and 3rd down, and you can't have football teams in the SEC just picking up those chunks of yardage that we saw against Florida last year. So the passing defense is going to be there. Got to be able to slow down the running game, and I don't know if we will see that type of regression, but it's certainly possible. You got to be able to start fast on both sides of the ball for Florida. So it's going to be it's kind of going to be boom or bust, I think, for me. Like they're going to start off hot and they're going to be ready to go, and this is going to be a team that we're going to be talking about in late in October and November, or it has a possibility of kind of stopping before it gets started.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then moving quickly here to Georgia. Again, this is on Athlon Sports. They spoke to coaches throughout the SEC and got quotes from them anonymously about other SEC teams. First quote for Georgia: they're consistent, they're talented, but they're still figuring out how to be elite. And this goes back to something we were talking about earlier in the week, where ESPN.com ranked Georgia as the biggest underachiever in college football. saying they haven't won a national championship in 40 years. And I said on the show, I agree with that. I think when you look at where Georgia's based, the type of job, the type of recruits they can get, the fiscal backing, and the fact you haven't won a championship in 40 years while all of your neighbors have, I think that's fair to label them as that. What I will say is this. It takes something crazy and stupid for you to win a national championship. When was the last time a team rolled through and didn't have just that one lucky break? And I'd say last year's Alabama is about as close as you gotten because they pretty much dominated everybody.
Well, Florida.
But that's what I was going to say.
Ole Miss. That was a close game.
I still think that was 63-48.
Yeah, but I mean, fourth quarter, it was
back and forth, but like it was never that moment where Bama was down 5.
That's true.
In the fourth, and they needed that play, right? Where I will say the Florida game, I think, is you have just out of your mind, out of body experience from Najee Harris, and that's what gets you that win and then gets you into the college football playoff. I think that's about as close. But I mean, for the most part, like think about LSU when they won. They were back and forth to Texas. I think that was week 2.
Week 1. I want to say.
I think it was the second week. I think LSU had and they had already played a game, and then they hit
probably
the
all right. But Auburn too, though. 2017, they just won 20-17 against Auburn. That was their closest game of the season.
Right. So it was hugely close. And that LSU Texas game, it took Joe Burrow. We'd never seen it before, and that was kind of the coming out party. It took Joe Burrow making some throws.
What was that? Like 3rd and 17?
Yeah.
When he got that completion over the middle, went for a touchdown.
And it's going to takes weird lucky plays to win a championship because, and someone actually says it, and another one of these coaches say it in here is this is a roster better than anyone in the country except for maybe Alabama and Clemson. And so when you think about it, who does that mean? That means Ohio State, Oklahoma, all Notre Dame, schools that are be competing for the college football playoff. So when you get there, everyone has the talent. It's coaching and it's a weird shaped ball.
Yeah.
Like it's going to come down to some weird plays to win some of these games. I mean, think about how many times Georgia could have lost the Rose Bowl.
Absolutely.
When they played in that game, right?
Oh,
I mean, you're down huge going into halftime. Right, you could have lost that game so many different ways, but it takes luck. And I think for the most part, and I'm not saying it takes luck in a relative scale. You still have to be one of the best teams in the country, but things are going to fall your way that you're going to need to fall your way if you're going to win a national championship.
Yeah.
And so when they say they're still figuring out how to be elite, to me, it's more so you're keeping yourself. We talk about windows all the time. You're keeping that window open to where fortune falls in your favor.
Yeah.
Where I'll say this, you didn't take advantage of fortune in 2017.
Right.
Yeah.
Auburn did you a favor by beating Alabama. And so you didn't have to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. And so you beat Auburn, get into the Rose Bowl, you play a crazy back and forth game, and you beat Oklahoma. You didn't take advantage of it. You got a blown coverage and you lose a national championship. Now, if you're Alabama, you want to talk about fortune falling your way.
Yeah.
You didn't have to play in the SEC championship game. You get to go to the college football playoff, and you have a freshman throw to another freshman in a blown coverage by one of the top 3 defenses in the country that year.
Yep. Talk about fate, talk about luck, talk about things bouncing your way.
But what do they say? Luck is where preparedness and opportunity meet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just think that's more so where it's at is, and I'll say this, and you guys can call me crazy if that's the case, because I think there's 2 games that I would say maybe would be bigger. I think just for that reason, when you're talking about figuring out how to be elite, I think this Clemson game might be the biggest game in Kirby Smart's career.
There you go. That's what I was about to say.
But it sounds crazy, or could be the biggest win in Kirby Smart's career.
Obviously,
the national championship is the biggest game he's played or coached in. But it could be the biggest win.
Yeah.
Because who are the teams that Georgia hasn't been able to get their name above? It's been Clemson and Alabama. I'll throw Ohio State in there. You've been that team that people consider right under those 3 schools, right? Nobody really considers Notre Dame. They just get in because people love putting Notre Dame in the college football playoff, apparently.
For whatever reason.
But in terms of being elite, because I don't, again, maybe it's just recency bias, but I feel like if Georgia this year is able to go out and beat Clemson week 1, just
Yeah.
for their name recognition and for people believing that Kirby Smart's an elite level coach, which if you don't believe Kirby Smart's an elite level coach, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Go back and look at the last few recruiting classes and look at the success Georgia's had. But
yeah,
if you can get that win, I think it does more for Kirby Smart's name than the Rose Bowl win.
Yeah.
As crazy
No,
as
I'm
that
with you.
sounds, because I think a lot of that too is people go back into that Rose Bowl and say, "Oh, well, he didn't recruit Nick Chubb and Sony Michelle and
course.
Roquan and those guys. That was Mark Richt."
I'll put it like this. I agree with you. I think this is like the biggest game, even bigger than the national championship. Because
I don't.
I'll put it like
it's
this.
not a bigger game than the national championship. That's what
Well,
I'm
it's
saying.
not
I'm
bigger.
Just,
It's
I'm just
a
going
little
to
bit more
wins.
important.
I'm just going to wins. So like we'll take the
Okay.
national championship out of it. This would be the biggest win.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you that because year 2, nobody expected Georgia to do that, like make that big of a leap year 2.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That was nuts. That was crazy.
Georgia was a 4 or 5 loss team, maybe
Mhm.
more than that. The
Yeah.
year
I
before.
think it
Year
was
before
5
that.
losses
Yeah.
with Eason, his first year. But now you're looking at it, the expectations have kind of settled in. Now you're looking for a national championship. And I think this will be, if they could win the national championship and go unscathed, I think this will be one of the greatest college football seasons ever, because essentially you have to beat Clemson, Bama, and Florida and Auburn before you even make it to the college football playoffs. And then you might have to repeat playing both of them teams again when you make it to the playoffs.
More
It's
likely than not.
insane. So this is a resume builder season for Kirby Smart. I mean, he's done a great job, but now it's time to take that next leap.
Yeah, I think it could be a huge win for him. And again, maybe just a legacy defining win for Kirby Smart. I think it puts him in a different stratosphere if he's able to pull that win out. We got more to come, though. We're going to talk more about that Clemson Georgia game, because I think it's way more significant for one team than the other. We'll dive into that when we come back next, right here on Second Down. We finished up that last segment discussing how significant that Clemson and Georgia game can be. And I think legacy-wise, Dabo Swinney's already got the championships, right? Dabo's legacy-wise is good. Now he's chasing that crazy legacy stuff, like the Mount Rushmore legacy stuff, where Clemson's the closest team in history to keeping up with Florida State's 14 straight top 5 finishes. I think Clemson's at 7 now, which is just unbelievable. But in terms of actual impact on the 2021 season, I think this game is much more important for one team than the other. And I think it's Clemson, because Georgia can lose to Clemson, and then if they can run the table through the SEC, beating Florida and beating Auburn, and then going to the SEC championship, you're in that SEC championship game playing for your spot in the college football playoff. Like, whoever wins the SEC is going to the college football playoff. Go and look at Clemson's schedule after Georgia.
Cupcake.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing I said about Coastal Carolina, where Coastal Carolina can go undefeated and they won't even have an argument to make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I think September 4th is much more significant for Clemson, because a win against Georgia legitimizes the rest of your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you go out and lose to Georgia, you're going to have to go out and convince people every single week. You're not allowed to have the Syracuse week, where Syracuse plays you to 3 points. Because, that would honestly look as bad as a loss.
Yeah, I think every win has to be double digits from that.
I wouldn't even say double digits. I think it's got to be like bad.
Yeah.
Like massacre bad. I mean, do y'all disagree? I feel like this is a way bigger game for Clemson.
No, I'm with you. I think it's extremely important for Clemson because of that schedule and because of just the general consensus of how we view the ACC at this point. I mean, it's just not an insanely strong conference when it comes to football right now. And you look at Clemson's schedule. I mean, like you said, there's not a lot of big games on there when you talk about the ACC, and then you have the ACC championship game, and there's a possibility you could have a 10-win team in there, or there's a possibility you could be playing against an 8-win team or a 7-win team. I mean, it's just true. That's just how the ACC is. So there's no guarantee that you're even going to play another ranked opponent or a top 20 opponent or anything like that. So, I mean, that's just the truth right now for Clemson. So you got to go out there and win this game. I mean, we like you said, we were talking about during the break of all the different scenarios for Georgia. Absolutely, you could go out and lose this game to Clemson and still refocus and come back and be in the conversation, be in the top 5, be in the top 10 all year if you're Georgia. You can't say the same about Clemson. I think it's almost, if you lose to Georgia, unless you just dominate.
Let's go through it, because once you get past Georgia, you don't, as of right now, you don't play another ranked team.
I think consistently you're sitting on the outside looking in the rest of the year.
Yeah, you go South Carolina State, Georgia Tech, NC State, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Florida State, Louisville, UConn, Wake Forest, South Carolina.
So is Notre Dame in the ACC this year?
They are not in the ACC.
Okay, so you can't bank on that team being there at the end of the year.
They still have 4 or 5 games.
They play some ACC opponents, but they are not in the ACC. Like, they played Florida State this year and Georgia Tech. But again, South Carolina State, Georgia Tech, NC State, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Florida State, Louisville, UConn, Wake Forest, South Carolina. Boston College and Pitt are probably the best 2 opponents remaining on their schedule once they get past Georgia.
Yep.
I think if you lose to Georgia, you can't have a bad game.
And they're banking on a undefeated North Carolina being in the ACC championship.
Good luck
game.
with that.
Yeah, they're not going to be undefeated. So
because one of Miami or North Carolina are going to lose because
exactly
they have to play each other, and Miami starts the season with Alabama.
Right. And you don't want to talk about this either because you don't want it to happen. But I mean, we're talking about Clemson too. You're hoping for no major injuries at that point either. Right. Obviously, like if you have, and not even major, if your quarterback goes down for 2 weeks or something like that, or your star wide receiver,
Justin Ross gets hurt again,
goes down for a couple weeks. I mean, I know they've been recruiting like crazy over the past 7 or 8 years there at Clemson to be able to build what they have, but like you said, you can't have a Syracuse type of game. You can't have a struggle of any kind because you got to go out there and win by 20 plus each night. It is what it is.
I want to ask you guys a question. If you take Clemson outside the ACC, what makes the ACC different from the Pac-12?
I'd say the Pac-12 is better right now
Okay,
than the ACC.
I'm glad you agree with me.
I think last year the Pac-12 was better. I
Mhm.
think you have probably two teams that are like legitimate. I would say
Yeah.
playoff contenders. I'd say with their schedule. I think Oregon's really good.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
I think Mario
Yeah.
Cristobal has done a really good job out there. I think Herm Edwards done a good job. If they can avoid sanctions because they're under NCAA investigation right now.
True.
But I think Herm Edwards done a good job at Arizona State. I think they're really good. I think right now the Pac-12's a better conference, top to bottom. I mean, I still think if you put Clemson in the Pac-12, they're going undefeated.
Oh
Of
yeah,
course.
definitely.
But
definitely.
I think top to bottom, Pac-12 is a better conference.
And see, that's the thing I was trying to get at. That's what Clemson's against. Okay, so the Pac-12 hasn't made the college football playoffs in I don't know how long.
I would hear arguments that the AAC is better.
Yeah, I mean the ACC is so weak. You just look at who they're about to play this year outside of Georgia. I mean, they might not play a ranked team the rest of the year.
Right.
And then North Carolina, they're up and coming, but they're not there yet. Miami, I
think North Carolina's gonna be bad this year. I think for some reason we're skipping over the fact that you lost 2 NFL wide receivers and 2 NFL running backs.
I mean, it's gonna be tough
and
to replace,
an NFL linebacker. And we're just assuming
the blinders of having that quarterback that's a household name, right? Yeah.
I mean, of course, this is a big game for both Georgia and Clemson. But if I had to choose a team that's under the most pressure, I would go with Georgia, just because you're going to have a lot of good quality
but just
teams
legitimately
to play,
in 2021, I give you UCF, Cincinnati, and Memphis as football teams.
They're better than everybody in the ACC.
I would say everybody,
Clemson.
but I think that's a legitimate like top 3 compared to
Clemson,
North Carolina, Miami.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could agree, especially over the past 3-4 years. Definitely with UCF, Memphis had a run. Cincinnati had a run.
Program. Yeah,
Cincinnati had a run this year. I definitely agree. But if Clemson loses this first game of the season, which I'm hoping, but if they do lose,
it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough just because of their schedule. I think they'll win out. That's not what I'm saying, but even in the ACC championship, they would have to probably beat whoever they're playing, probably Miami or UNC, by like 21 points.
We'll see how strong their brand is.
We'll see. We're up against it though. We got to go to break. We'll come back. Final segment of Second Down next. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Urshry. If you missed any portion of the show, you can head to Spotify, Apple Podcast, or ESPNCoastal.com to check it out. Guys, Jared Binko coming up here in about 25 minutes. Georgia Southern is a team, has a lot of talent. They lost a lot of guys, but kind of, I think, flying under the radar. In the Sun Belt, they have a really tough schedule coming up in 2021. What a lot of people have said is one of the more intriguing home schedules for Georgia Southern in recent memory. You have BYU coming to town, and you also have FAU on that schedule as well. So really interesting schedule for Georgia Southern. But right now, according to Vegas, over-under for the win totals, 4.5.
Man.
For the Georgia Southern Eagles. I don't know how well that would fly in Statesboro.
No, yeah. Surprising they're a little bit, like you said, replacing some, but still, good program, solid program, always brings in good talent. Be surprised to see something like that happen in Georgia Southern this year.
Now, the guys from 3 and Out will talk to Georgia Southern AD Jared Binko about all that coming up. It's going to be really cool to see a full Paulson Stadium. But again, Jared Binko coming up here in about 25 minutes. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, Kevin Thomas coming up next on 3 and Out.